Federal departments are increasingly moving software applications and databases into the cloud, including some that handle or store Canadians' personal information. Information stored digitally, whether on premises, in data centers, or in the cloud, is exposed to the risk of being compromised. In this audit, we wanted to know whether the Treasury Board of Canada Secretariat, Shared Services Canada, Public Services and Procurement Canada, Communications Security Establishment Canada, and selected departments had controls in place to prevent, detect, and respond to security threats on Canadians' personal information in the cloud. Overall, we found that the departments we audited did not always implement and follow the controls that the government has set out.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and members of the committee for the invitation to appear on the study of the Auditor General Canada report to Parliament on cybersecurity of personal information in the cloud. My name is Rajiv Gupta. My pronouns are he, his, and il, lui. I am the Associate Head of the Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity at the Communications Security Establishment, also known as the Cyber Centre.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'm pleased to be here with you and members of the committee to discuss how Public Services and Procurement Canada is responding to the audit of cybersecurity and personal information in the cloud.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee for your invitation. I'm pleased to be here today accompanied by Costa Theophilos, Director General of Cloud Product Management and Services, to address any question the committee may have with respect to the Auditor General of Canada and Shared Service Canada progress in addressing the recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. This is my first time appearing at this committee. I've met some of you, but for the others, I'm pleased to be here today. 21 months in government, having spent about 30 years in private sector, and so I'm still in my firsts as I go through all these different exercises. So as Chief Information Officer of Canada, I provide overall leadership for the management of information technology, information management, and service and digital transformation within the government in Canada. And as you see me sitting here with my colleagues today, we could have another 100 people here with all the departments. It's a team sport to modernize digital infrastructure in government.
This guy's garage. Like and subscribe.
I'm just going to say a couple words at the top. This, I think, is one of the most important reports and work that government can do, because we're not just dealing with dollars and cents or policies that members and civil servants deals with all the time, but we're in fact dealing with potentially the identity of Canadians, which is in some cases invaluable. So I appreciate the work you do here today, and I hope the Auditor General's Office will continue to prioritize this review to ensure we always have standards that keep the identity and information of Canadians safe. I'm just going to ask two quick questions, just because I think it will clear, just to help other members. Mr. Hayes, I know there is at least one recommendation that is not public. Is there just one, or is there more than one recommendation that you felt important not to make public in this report today?
Thank you. There was just one recommendation.
Thank you. And I was going to general question, but I think I'm going to direct it to Mr. Prong, because you might know the answer. Is it the law currently in Canada that government Canada information has to be held within Canada?
Yes.
It is the law.
It is the policy. I don't think it's a law. It's a policy that, in fact, fall under Catherine's authority.
Thank you. I'm sure there'll be questions. I just wanted to kind of set the table for that, because there was some discussion about that. Turning now, Ms. Kuzi, you have the floor.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the witnesses for being here today. Mr.
You indicated will be available this spring in 2023. Would you be able to provide it to table with the committee when it becomes available, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the question. This is a product that we are working with multiple departments under the leadership of the Treasury Board Secretariat. And there is nothing to hide. It's something that we'll share with the department because it's a tool. So I assume we will be able to share with this committee when the product is ready for distribution. Catherine may want to add on this.
No, that would be something that we'd be happy to share.
Great. Thank you so much. Merci beaucoup. Will the results of these tests with pilot departments occurring in fall of 2023 be able to be reviewed by parliamentarians, in particular the members of this committee, please?
I think, Mr. Chair, the Member of Parliament is referring here to the automation of guardrail verification. We'll have to find a way to share that with you. What it is basically is that right now there is 12 guardrails. My team, and following the wise advice from the Auditor General, have taken of not only checking once at the beginning, but on an ongoing basis that these guardrails are maintained. So it will be more a monitoring than a one-time exercise. But we are monitoring compliance of each department right now. It's just that it's not automated. It's people that belong in Costa's team that basically take the manual work to verify around 200 instances of cloud regularly to make sure that the department, when using this, they follow the standard. And often it's only enabling a function. But if they move the switch to the left, this is not working anymore. So we need to make sure they maintain that because all of this is protecting the system. So my answer is we can come back at this committee or share with the clerk the result of our review for sure.
Okay, thank you. Madame Luelo, do you think that the Government of Canada is matching cloud adaptation standards as seen abroad?
I think we are experiencing very similar things to what other organizations do at this stage of our maturity. So we are less than 10% in the cloud. I think we are adopting what is standard best practices. And I think we are learning, unfortunately, a lot of the same lessons that organizations learn, which is, I think, one of the key findings of the Auditor General's report was that we have great standards and guardrails in place, but the application of them was inconsistent, which is why the automation is so very important.
Was there an international comparative analysis completed?
Not that I'm aware of, but I might ask my colleague who's been around the table a little bit longer if there was an international benchmark done. Not what I'm aware of.
What I know about that, and maybe our colleagues from the Center on Cybersecurity will have used, we often compare our practice here in Canada to the standards on cybersecurity of the American. So we do comparison, but I'm not sure we have a report that will do a broader scan.
So maybe just to add as well, in terms of our assessment of the CSPs or the cloud service providers, we do look at international standards such as ISO, FedRAMP in the United States, as well as SOC 2 Type 2 reports as well, which are required in terms of the assessment process. So we make sure we're very harmonized with the international and U.S. in that space.
Thank you. Mr. Hayes, in your audit, you mentioned the one security weakness was that contract security clauses were unclear and not standard. At Government Operations Committee, we found in some instances that contractors were able to start work on the project without a security clearance in place. Were those the types of issues you found with shared services and public services and Procurement Canada?
In terms of the roles and responsibilities, we were concerned that unclarity led to questions about who was on first, who was going to be dealing with issues when there was an event. But we did also identify that the monitoring and oversight could be improved by both shared services and by PSPC.
And expanding upon that, Mr. Hayes, what security measures for IT contracts were recommended by your organization?
So I won't get into the details of some of the information that we weren't able to include in the report, but what we identified was that for the guardrails, for the security requirements that are in place, that they should be implemented in their entirety, and that ongoing monitoring should be happening as well.
You also recommended in your report that cloud contracts need to have the security requirements clarified within the federal government. Who do you think should be taking on that role?
In my view, this is a role for the Treasury Board Secretariat to provide guidance and policy on.
Thank you, Mr. Hayes. Ms. Luelo, you mentioned currently less than 10% of government information is on the cloud. Do you think that we should be halting storing more information on the cloud until the recommendations of the Auditor General are implemented?
Just a clarification point, 10% of systems,
Pardon me,
not
10%
data.
of systems,
Those
my
are a little
apologies.
bit different. No, it's okay, but it's important nuance. And
It
I
is.
think that we can continue course and speed. We have actually quite aggressively moved on the Auditor General's findings already, as I outlined in some of my remarks, and we will continue to tighten things as we move along. But there is always, as part of putting a new system into production, i.e. into the cloud, a release to production activity list you go through to make sure things have been met. So we'll be disciplined around making sure for cloud migrations that we pay very close attention to that to ensure we're managing that risk.
And that is your time, Ms. Guzzi. Thank you.
I guess I'll start with Ms. Luelo from the Treasury Board. Why is the Government of Canada migrating data and systems to the cloud?
The Government of Canada is migrating systems and information to the cloud for the couple of the reasons I've outlined. One is it gives us speed and agility. We've seen some of the challenges that we've had in meeting service levels to Canadians, and our hope is that we create digital environments that are elastic and changeable in a different way than some of our old, more monolithic, if I could use that word, systems. The second thing is that it does give us a platform for a more modern tool set, which is a really important way for us to attract digital talent into government. I've talked often and loudly about the digital talent gap in Canada, but particularly in the Government of Canada. And part of us attracting great talent into the government to work on this mission-critical work that we do is having modern tools for those professionals to use.
Okay, so your first answer was speed. Is that speed in implementing a project from start to finish, or speed in other ways as well?
Yeah, so speed of implementing new projects, but speed of actually changing systems. So imagine we introduce a new policy, a new program, and some of the exceptional things that were done throughout COVID were done in ways that were extraordinary. And in a normal organization where you've got a good cloud footprint, you're able to actually stand up and build things in a much quicker fashion than in our traditional environment. I would also note that there is advantage to using these large scale organizations whose full-time day job is running these environments, and there are benefits from a security and just general keeping things modern and not getting behind that cloud environments provide to us. So I think it's a dual purpose, and certainly any of my colleagues that would like to, I think I got that okay.
Okay. So on page 15 of the report, when it said that there was no costing model in place, is there a cost-benefit analysis done before every IT project? Is that safe to say?
There's a cost-benefit analysis done on every project, and part of that cost-benefit of analysis is, what type of hosting, so whether it's cloud or whether it's the data centers that Sunny provides. Some of it, because we are very much at the beginning in the Government of Canada, I would say that we weren't fully appreciative of some of the costs of moving to cloud, so we found it more difficult to make the move. We did not, in some cases, take the opportunity to simplify and reduce the platform of what we moved to the cloud, so that increases your cost. And we did not have good visibility on what it costs to operate and run in an environment like the cloud, because we relied on the shared services group to run all the data centers. So it was very difficult to sort of compartmentalize how much does it cost to run Stats Canada versus CSE versus ESDC. So part of the great opportunity of just having done a small component of this is now we've got some real world data. And the other kind of cool thing about the cloud is that we can now take environments that are in there and we can simplify and decrease them. And as our consumption goes down with a cloud provider, our bill goes down. And so there's advantages as we start to tune and calibrate that will reflect itself in cost savings.
Okay. Is it safe to say, though, that for a cost-benefit analysis for a particular project, the time savings up front in setting up a new data center, that would have been included in the cost-benefit analysis for a particular project. Is that fair to say?
That's fair to say.
Okay. So would it ever be the case that there would be a project whose sole purpose is to migrate data to the cloud, or is it when you have an old legacy system and you're looking to redevelop it from scratch that investigating the cloud as an option would come into consideration?
There's two scenarios that we would look at, and I'll turn to my colleague in SSC to complement the answer. One is we're moving something old into the cloud, and that would include the thing that the system does and the data that allows the system to do the thing that it does, if, like, very simply put. The second thing is we could be standing up a net new system. And so there's two reasons why we would move to the cloud. One is to get out of an old data center and manage that risk. And the second is that we're building something net new, which we did during COVID and will continue to do. And it actually made more sense to do it in the cloud because we could turn up an environment, which is where you build something, in days versus months.
And that is your time, Mr. Cram.
Okay.